Hello everyone from the limited edition, the Collector's Place. Pietro Tomaia here with you for one of our live chats, live calls. Actually, in terms of live host guests today, we're starting with a very interesting character of watchmaking. One of those that has been inspiring people like me that got into independent watchmaking, let's say, round about 10 years ago. And you know, as the limited edition, our ethos is about bringing value to collectors in terms of especially contents, telling you the nice stories behind all the timepieces and all the brands and all the individual watchmakers that we try to promote on our site. And telling you the stories. We couldn't start from a better story than MB&F, who's been probably, I like to say, an ambassador for independent watchmaking in over the last over 10 years. And we have, despite MB&F not being officially linked to the limited edition, I am privileged to have a nice relationship with the brand founder and owner, Max Büsser, and I'm very honored to have him with us today for our first live call with an independent watchmaker and brand owner. So I'll try now to get Max with us. Here he comes, so it should be visible. Hi, Max.
Hi, Pietro. Ciao.
How are you? All good?
All good.
Can you hear?
Interesting experiment. Let's see how this works out.
I know. We've done it. So far, we've done it on the bridge UK to Ireland, which it has worked pretty well. Now we're trying to stretch to Dubai, where I suppose you are at the moment.
Yep.
Brilliant. So I'm sure it'd be absolutely great. So briefly to start our chat, you know, with the limited edition, we are trying to promote and boost independent watchmaking. Pretty straightforward. We started 3 years ago with a few handful of brands that believed in our passion and in our project, and now we are fortunate enough to be officially retailing over 20 brands. So what we are striving to do is to create interesting contents, all relevant to independent watchmaking. So the first question is very easy, because our ultimate goal is to bring value to collectors, to watch collectors and watch aficionados. Where is value in independent watchmaking for Max Büsser?
That's not an easy question, eh? Independence, first of all, or independent watchmaking is a very, very broad word, subject. It can be everything and anything. Where do you find value? Where do I find value? I don't want to be a professor. I don't want to tell people what they should think. I'll tell you what I believe in. Why I love independent creators, and not all of them, but some of them, is that the people I love, it's their life. When I get a piece from Kari Voutilainen or a Norberg or a Grönefeld, I am getting a piece from Kari, Felix, Martin, Barton, Tim's life. These are people who didn't create their brand because they thought they were going to make money. Like, let's be clear, 90% of all small watch startups have failed or are going to fail. So those who actually, like the people I mentioned, are still there and doing an incredible job. They're not doing that because they thought it was a business. They're doing that because it's their vocation. Vocation, that's French. It's their passion. It's what they love doing. They need to express themselves. And when you get one of their pieces, you're getting a part of their soul. I don't want to be corny. I don't want to be too romantic, but that's a fact. You're not getting a piece of a company which is interested in increasing its profits every quarter. You're getting a piece from somebody who loves what he does, and that's the only way he expresses himself. So that's very, very important for me. So there's a very artistic approach to that. You are helping the artist create the next piece. You are part of the creative process. You're helping somebody who's got talent and dreams to create that other new piece he's working on. The second part where I find you've got value is that, like the people I'm talking about, there's a quality of work because they're doing this to be proud, not to make money. There's a quality of work, there's a quality of everything they do which rarely can be seen in other brands. I'm not saying it's better, I'm saying it's personal. I'm saying they're doing their utmost best because it's their pride. And I work exactly the same way. Right? When I work with my engineers, our engineers in MB&F, they go bananas because every meeting I'm like, oh, couldn't we do this and add that and do it better? And they're like looking at me going, but A, it's never going to come out. B, the cost prices, I mean, every time we speak to you, the cost price goes up. I'm like, but that we don't care about that. What we care is to create a fantastic product we're proud of. And that's what I love in some independence.
And you've been nurturing, of course, your inspiration and your passion through collaborations with the different independent watchmakers across the years. Even, of course, before, famously before MB&F, when you were at the head of the Harry Winston rare timepieces as well. So you said now something very interesting. Most independent watchmakers, economically, if you're only looking at the business, they're bound, it's always a risk to actually go down. So the second question would be, what does it take to be an independent watchmaker these days with all the odds out there? And I'm not only referring to the market situation, but of course the aggressiveness of the rest of the players. Shall we call them mainstreamers on the market?
Well, first thing absolutely necessary is that if an independent watchmaker wants to launch his brand, it has to be a life calling and not a business decision. He has to do it because he thinks he will be very sad and not proud of himself if he doesn't do it. So the why he does it has to be that. Second, what he needs to create is something which is, of course, very different. I don't say he has to go as crazy as we do, but it has to have a style, an attitude, a philosophy, which his personal, not what he thinks clients want. That's his doom if he thinks that way. Not what his retailers tell him to do, definitely not, but what he believes in.
On this, I remember when your first timepiece obviously came out in 2006 was when you...
Well, 2007 was the launch of the first one, yeah.
I saw it a year ago in 2007 in the production line with Gino Macaluso, who took me to actually have a quick look to your project, and he was puzzled back in the days. But yeah, sorry for the interruption.
The thing is, I never thought anybody was going to like what I was going to do. I was terrified. I still am. I mean, half the time when we come up with a new product, I'm terrified. And actually, what's interesting is the more I'm terrified, the bigger success it is. So I have to be a little bit careful because now I sort of think, if I'm not scared, maybe it's going to be a flop. But coming back to that, so do it because it's your life. Do something which is you, not because you think people will like it. And number three, which I think is really the most important, is surround yourself with people who have got the talents you don't have. Because none of us have 360-degree talent. None. And one of the secrets of our success is that I know how to surround myself with great people. And I built my company around my fortes, my strengths, as much as around my shortcomings. Meaning when I created MB&F, I knew very well what I was useless at and what I hated doing and what I should really not be doing. And so I sort of modeled my dream company around the fact where I could minimize my shortcomings and all the stuff I don't want to do and maximize my strengths. And that's one of the many reasons I don't want MB&F to grow. Since 2013, we've been doing the same revenue, more or less the same amount of pieces, actually less pieces every year. And everybody's puzzled because in the last 3 years, sellout has been much stronger than production. My retailers, first I'm on my back going, why don't you produce more? I said, because I hate managing people. I'm useless at managing people. I think I was pretty good at Harry Winston. You'd have to ask the people who worked with me. But it just sucks so much energy out of me. It clogs my mind. It blocks my brain. I don't like doing that. So I need to have a very small company with a very small team, because otherwise I'm going to be unhappy. So coming back to the three points, maybe I'll put in a fourth point. Again, as usual, I'm going to make myself a lot of friends saying that. If you can avoid it, do not take on a shareholder. At least not an economical, a financial shareholder. A strategic, of course. But I think a lot of independent watchmakers ended up in difficulty and trying to get some money in. And therefore, they arrived with these super aggressive business plans that they sold to tentative shareholders. And of course, if they got the money, then they had to stick to their business plan, which was impossible. So then they have to do all sorts of stuff business-wise that they shouldn't be doing. And they auto-destroy their own company to try and fulfill the promises they made to a shareholder. So that's amongst the points, the advice, if I had any advice to give to somebody launching a watch brand.
Absolutely. We have actually one of your fellow independent watchmakers connected, David Brailsford from Garrick Watches, waving our flag in the UK for British, independent watchmaking. He's asking already a question, but I think you have already intrinsically answered the question. He's saying that you, Max, seems to make all look very easy. Of course, you are part of a big success story these days. But David is saying, but has it been a difficult journey? And I think I can.
Now, it's very interesting because for our 10th anniversary in 2015, we decided to tell the story as it is. Because we realized that many people saw those first 10 years as a walk in the park. And if you look at the numbers, or just the numbers, it looks easy. We were 2 weeks short of bankruptcy in 2007. I say we, I was all alone. No, we were two in the company by that. Because our main supplier who was working on our first movement got sold to a brand who clearly didn't buy that supplier to create movements for third parties, and our life became a total nightmare. And people like Peter Speakmarin saved my company, and Stephen McDonnell and other guys like that saved my company in 2007, and we managed to deliver the first 2 HM1s early June 2007, 2 weeks before we were filing for bankruptcy. So that was the beginning. 2009, we had planned 175 pieces in production. Why? Because we'd done 125 in 2008. Of course, this is before the Lehman Brothers goes down and everything which happened then. And you realize that when we craft a product like ours, and every independent watchmaker knows what I'm talking about, it takes 12 to 18 months between when you launch your orders with all your subcontractors, suppliers, artisans, and you get your final product. So basically by early 2008, I had put in my whole year of 2009 into production. And then September 2008, Lehman Brothers goes down. Everybody's in denial. The whole watch industry is going, oh, we will not be affected by that. The retailers are still taking the product. We're all delivering the product. And I was telling you that I may have my daughter coming in, so come on. Yeah. Come on. There we go. That's the reason.
Hello, darling.
There we go.
How are you?
We're having an interview.
Do you like your watches? Do you like Daddy's watches? Yeah? Good girl.
Yeah. I'm lucky. I'm a good day. Darling. There you go.
Lovely. Yeah, that's great.
2009, during SIH, we take 17 pieces on order, and we have 175 on production. A nightmare. 2009, we were already 6 or 8 in the company, and we were all terrified. I think I traveled 250 days that year to try and convince people about what we were trying to do. And I was extremely lucky that in 2008, Serge Kriknoff, my partner in the company and the technical director of the company, joined me so that he could keep the fort while I was traveling like a madman trying to explain what we were trying to do. And we finished the year at 143 pieces. I remember every single one of those. So, and I was this close of complete burnout. I mean, physical, emotional, it was a nightmare. Then 2012, for completely 3 different reasons, in the month of August 2012, we lost 80% of our open orders in 3 weeks. Vanished. We had 5.2 million on order, Swiss francs. 4 million disappeared overnight, like in 3 weeks. 3 completely different reasons: suppliers, retailers, miscomprehension with some of our big partners. Boom. And we managed to save that year, but it was like this close. 2014 was probably one of our scariest years ever. Even though from 2013 to today, we've still been doing the same revenue, 15 to 17 million Swiss francs. In 2014, I was victim of my own stupidity. Because in 2012, we'd survived all these incredible hardships and managed to get over them, I probably got what people would call today the God complex. Meaning, I thought I can survive anything. So in 2012, we were doing already 1 new movement a year, 1 fully new caliber a year. I told my team, this is not enough, let's do 2. And my whole team like, yeah, let's do 2. Well, guess what? We can't. In 2014, we discovered the really hard way. We can't. 4 calibers at the same time being developed, prototyped, and having all the parts machined and hand finished and plated and brought in. We're talking of 1,500 references of components multiplied by 50, 100, 200, 300. We had like 8 negative cash flow months, one after the other. And in August 2000, we really thought we were going down. We cut everything we could in the company, except the team. And we managed to just scrape through 2015. So we've had some super tough years. When it happens, we don't talk about it. But afterwards, when we look back, we're like, wow, But I'll tell you one thing. I am a much more serene entrepreneur and creator today because we had tough years. Because now I know that whenever we fall down, one way or the other, we manage to get back up on our feet. If I've never fallen down, I would be terrified of falling down. So that's something I have to apply as a father also with my children. We all want to protect our kids and have them to have a much easier and more beautiful life than us. I've never met a parent say, I want my children to have a tougher life than me. And at the same time, it's all those tough moments, those moments I fell down and got back up on my feet, which made me who I am and makes MB&F what it is. So that's a tough one. That's a very tough one as a parent.
I think very relevant contribution to those like David from Garrick trying to revamp, the British watchmaking tradition, and I think that path has been quite fragmented and quite difficult. Mm-hmm. But I was well impressed actually in Basel with what Garrick has shown.
Agreed.
So briefly, Max, we always try as the limited edition to turn things from the collectors and the aficionados point of view, never taking for granted. I always think that the amount of people interested in watchmaking and stepping out from the mainstream brands every day because of different personal reasons is increasing. So we like to think that we take them under our arm to show them where the value can be found in independent watchmaking. So if you had to point out one thing clearly in the eyes of a collector should differentiate independents from mainstream watchmakers, given the quality that you've already talked about that can be different from one brand to another, would you have one thing that you would point out as a defining element for people to really relate to a different value that you can find in independence?
For me, the only point a collector should look at is the why. Is the why the company exists and why the owner is doing what he's doing. Because at the end of the day, those who want to buy watchmaking because they think it's a sound investment, please go to where you will do a sound investment. This is not what it's about. What it is about is if you find a creator who's got the passion and he's doing it selflessly and he's doing to express himself at any price point, then you will relate to the piece you're wearing. And every time I look at my Kari or my whatever piece I own, or my Stepan Sarpaneva, I think of my friend Stepan. I know what he's gone through, the hardship he's gone through in his life to be able to create his brand, and what he has sacrificed in his life to do it. And I think of my friend not only because he's my friend and he's an incredibly talented human being, but I think of everything he's gone through.
He doesn't smile as much as you do, Max, does he, Stepan?
Sorry?
He doesn't smile as much as you do, Stepan, does he?
He does. He's got a warped sense of. He's probably one of the guys who makes me the most laugh, honestly. But you've got a connection. It's as if you're buying a piece of art, and that's what watchmaking is about. And that's what drives me a little bit crazy today. We all admit that mechanical watchmaking is pointless. We all, those who don't probably have to rethink. We all agree it's a work of art. If you are interested in buying an industrial work of art, well, go and buy an industrial work of art. But if you're going to go and buy a work of art, maybe you want to connect with the artist who's put all his soul in it. And I'm saying his because unfortunately there are not many hers. There are a few, but they're not enough.
Absolutely. So which leads me, your comment leads me to the next topic. There is the value of in-house manufacturing. This is what I want to tackle with you, which is actually the next step higher, to become the pure independent watchmaker. The moment you manage to establish an in-house manufacturing, it becomes for some brands the fulfillment of a dream. For other brands, something that they don't need and they don't want to touch at all. Also very respectfully, because there are different, obviously everyone comes from a different place. But what is in Max Büsser's mind the value of in-house manufacturing? What's your take on this element?
I'm in a weird situation to answer here. I started my career at Jaeger-LeCoultre, where we're so proud, and rightly so, to be this totally integrated manufacturer 26 years ago, when virtually nobody was. Then I went to Harry Winston, where there was 7 people in the company, me included, and we were doing nothing initially, and then slowly we integrated first quality control, then after-sales service, then assembly, then manufacturing, etc., etc. Then I started MB&F.
Slowly, you duplicated the sales, I remember as well.
Sorry?
So slowly, you decuplicated the revenues as well at Harry Winston.
Then I started MB&F, where the first and only employee for the first 2 years was myself, working out of my little flat. Is my HM1 a worse product than the HM9, which is going to come out in September, where now we're 25 in the company with 3 engineers in-house. We're super talented. I'm so lucky to have found them. We do the prototyping in-house. We, of course, do all the assembly, all the quality control. We do not craft the parts because we believe that we're not bringing added value at this point. We actually do have a little factory, our workshops with 3 CNC machines. We do all the prototyping in-house now, just to go faster. But we don't believe that if we're going to make 200 wheels, our wheels will be better than the guy who's been doing wheels for 40 years and who intrinsically in his guts does it eyes closed because that's what he knows how to do. So we integrate when we believe we can do it better, or because we think it makes our life much easier, flexible, faster. Speed is a big element of integrating. Often we live nightmares where the component arrives and it's like the last one we've got 565 components in this movement, and there's one which arrives already like 1 month late, and it's wrong, and the dimensions are wrong, or something is wrong, the finishing is wrong, and then you go back to the person, the artisan who's made it, and you say, dude, it's wrong, and he goes, okay, I'll take it back and I'll give it back to you in 2 months. And you're like, no, not 2 months. I've already paid the 564 other components. My retailers, my clients are waiting. I need to get that product out. So from there onwards, we started buying machines so that little part, if we had to remake it or modify it, boom, 2 days after it was made. But the point was not to make it in-house, because I don't think I will make it better than somebody else. Yeah. So this whole manufacturer story, I think, is a pendulum. 26 years ago, when I entered this industry, there were virtually 0 manufacturer. There was more or less Rolex, Jaeger, and partly Patek Philippe. Partly, and on many other components was subcontracted in those days. And everybody was saying, we are manufacturer. So there were way too many lies in those days.
Absolutely.
And then the media arrived and started saying, okay, you're a manufacturer, where are the machines, where are the people? And so all these brands said, oh my God, we have to start manufacturing stuff. And the pendulum went completely the other way around. Now everybody's so proud that they do everything themselves. Does it mean it's better done? Allow me to doubt.
Perfect. On another, I wanted to ask you something about marketing. Of course, I've seen obviously some of your recent interviews and your take on marketing and how marketing should be used as a lever to boost real values. Is debatable in some ways. So the question is, what is the real value of marketing, and how can marketing honestly boost the real qualities of a brand, knowing that also doing no marketing at all or no advertising or taking some strong stand in this respect is in per se a marketing strategy?
Okay, let's put it this way. We spend 3 to 4 years, and I say we us artisans creators, we spend 3 to 4 years doing the R&D of an incredibly complex movement, doing the prototyping of something which initially doesn't work, we have to modify it, then we do a pre-series, and then we finally go into production, we craft 3, 4, 5, 600 different components from different artisans, have it hand finished here, have it plated there, bring it in-house, assemble everything over weeks and months. We need people to know about that. As us small independent brands, we have zero advertising budget. There is no advertising budget. So you're not going to do all of that and just hope and pray that somebody is going to discover you, because I think that's, well, I just think that's a little bit dangerous. So from there onwards, and that's when I tell people about the MB&F creative process, I don't give a damn about anybody when I create a product. And I'm very sorry if I offend anybody. When I create a product, I don't care if anybody can buy it. And honestly, I would never have created a Thunderbolt, a Space Pirate, an Aquapod. I mean, the HM7 Aquapod, the day before SIHH, we were all in the workshops looking at the piece going, who is going to buy this? And we went and presented it to the retailers and the press, and amazingly, it was our fastest sellout in the history of the company. But we were completely terrified. We were so terrified that we actually put the price so low for what it was, because we thought nobody's ever going to buy this. So as much as in my creative process, I don't want to care about clients. Then once I've created that product, which I'm so proud of, I need to go out there. We need to go out there and get the message across. And for me at the beginning, it was traveling like a madman to sit down with people and explain why we were trying to do what we were doing and what we were trying to defend as values. And that was super important. And then luckily, a thing called social media arrived. And suddenly we were able to have a real debate, discussion, dialogue, which we couldn't have before with social media. And for example, I find one guy who's super talented, it's young Recep from Akrivia, who clearly, he's got it. I mean, he's creating incredibly beautiful, at least I find it, products, beautiful finishing, and he knows how to use the social media to get his message out there. So I don't think there is anything offensive, or I don't think there's anything degrading in trying to get your message out. I think there's this whole purist attitude to, if you're a real watchmaker, you should be absolutely useless at communicating. I think that's wrong. I think a certain amount of collectors are making life difficult for young and not so young independent watchmakers who need to get their message out there, and it's okay to communicate.
Great. And in that respect, you lead me to the next question. I know you're passionate about quite a few independent watchmakers out there. You have mentioned a few along the way, Sarpaneva, Stephen McDonnell, to name a few. Is there one watchmaker that it really hurts for you to see how much is underrated, or watchmaker or watch brand that you think definitely would deserve much more than what they've been able to get? Because, yeah, I'll stop there.
There are a lot of them. There are a lot of my friends and people I admire who deserve a recognition. But I wouldn't know where to start, because if I start with one, I'm going to have to put the whole list, and then I'm going to forget people, and then I'm going to offend people.
My fault. You have to
look, I mean, I'll give you another example. Benoît Mintiens from Ressence. This guy blows me away. Now you can say, of course, it's not a manufacturer movement. I don't care. This guy is reinventing a new chapter in watchmaking. And again, you know his personal story. Benoît is an industrial designer from Antwerp. He started his first product in 2010 with a table at Basel Fair presenting his pieces. And he kept his day job till, I believe, 2015, and developed his brand on weekends and holidays, going back and forth with Switzerland, with the suppliers, to try and make his ideas come to life, and put everything he had. And he's a father of kids. He's got a family, and he did this not expecting the brand to ever become a business, but because it was his passion. And you can see that. You can see in everything he does. Many people don't understand what he does. I think it's brilliant. It doesn't have to be a manufacturer movement. He is writing a new chapter in watchmaking.
Brilliant. And on the value of certain independent watchmakers that are based outside of Switzerland as well. Watchmakers like Garrick, we've mentioned, who's been obviously connected with us today. Konstantin Chaikin, you mentioned Sarpaneva as well. Do you think, what is the balance between Swiss-made becoming a little bit fainted or anachronistic, some says, because of the very soft rules related to Swiss-made still in vigor at the moment, and this new breed of ideas, creativity, and really, I would say, conceptual horology coming from abroad, coming from other minds that are not, have not been recognized by the big corporations yet, but are very much there now, gaining recognition from collectors.
I think in artisanal watchmaking, nobody gives a damn about Swiss-made. If you understand watchmaking and quality, it can be done anywhere in the world. Doing it outside of Switzerland is actually making your life much more difficult. So therefore, I've got way more admiration for many of the independents who create outside Switzerland, because they don't have the network of artisans and suppliers that we can work with. 100% of what we do is crafted in Switzerland, because we've got this network of incredible artisans. Those who are working outside and crafting, I mean, look at Lang & Heine. Look at Marco Lang, what he does. It's absolutely stunning. And he does all of that in Germany, and without any help from Swiss suppliers that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong, but I say, wow, not only do you do something amazing, beautiful, which is your own signature, at great prices, but on top of that, you're making your life difficult by not being where all the suppliers are. Hats off. Look, at the end of the day, in independent watchmaking, who is Swiss? I mean, there are a few, don't get me wrong, but there are not many of us who are Swiss creating great independent watchmaking. Innovation, creativity, ideas are not something which have to be Swiss.
Have no boundaries, absolutely, absolutely. Well, in this respect, just a small note. I've been recently, actually, I was lucky enough to go to Russia to visit Konstantin Chaikin's premises for the first time for me, and yeah, I was blown away because it's serious operations in a country that must not be necessarily the easiest to develop something like that. So absolutely. More on on the personal level, Max, and we are already at question 8, so we see in the light. In terms of course, independent watchmaking and creativity, we've been talking about creativity, and you mentioned the big word art a few times as well, is all about getting out of your comfort zone in general. Yeah. But for an artist like you have demonstrated to be over the last 10 years, being out of your comfort zone has been probably a little bit the situation you've been putting your brain constantly in order to be creative every day and in every moment. So how does somebody like you that you have already digged, you have already taken so many risks in terms of creativity, how do you manage to go beyond now? What's in your mind? What is the lever that is helping you to go to the next thing, not to repeat yourself, and to keep that level that you've been achieving in the last for the last decade?
The reason I created MB&F is to be proud the last day of my life. That was very clear after I finished my therapy, that was what I was going to try and achieve. So to try and be proud means try and do things which take you out of your comfort zone, in my case, creatively. When I created MB&F, I had HM1, I had HM2, and I had a sketch of HM3. That's all. Everything you've seen since arrived afterwards. Now, what I've discovered, and the first HM was very, very, very complicated for me to create, because the first time in my life that I was actually creating for myself. For 7 years at Jaeger and 7 years at Harry Winston, I had been creating as a marketeer, where I looked at the market and I thought, this is what the market wants. We will create that product and it will be theoretically as easy as possible to sell. That's how business works. And I think I was not too bad at that. But when I created HM1, it was my baby. It was me. I was actually talking about me for the first time. And I was completely and utterly terrified when I came out with that piece. It was 65 millimeters width. The shape was, of course, extremely weird. Everything was, I mean, today when you look at it, it looks more or less subdued compared to what we've done in the meantime. But it was something where I was putting every single, you can ask Eric Giroux, the incredible designer and fantastic friend I've been working with for all these years. That HM1, I was in so much doubt. The lugs, what shape of the lugs? I'm actually defining the shape of my lug. The font, we looked at, I'm not joking, we looked at, I think, 350 different fonts. And then one day, I came across this font, which name was Star Trek. And I was like, you know what? That's it. It's called Star Trek. That's what we're going to use. And that's what we've been using for the last 13 years. But that was the 351 font, because I was like, is this the font? Is that the font? Is this me? Is that so? So the beginning is extremely complex. And then you do the HM2. It's a little bit easier. And then HM3, it's a little bit easier. And then you realize that the creative process, which is personal, is like drugs. You need to increase the dose. Because if you keep on the same dose all the time, you stop feeling at some point. You stop having the effects. So you have to start getting that dose. And that's one of the many reasons I came out with the Legacy. Because putting myself in danger and creating a round classic watch was the ultimate challenge for me at that point. That's why at some point we decided to create a music box. That's why at some point we decided to create the Mad Gallery. We had never, ever, nobody in my team, me included, had ever done retail in our life, had ever done an art gallery. And we were so clueless when we opened that gallery. We opened it and we were like wishing that 2 or 3 people a day would come in just so that Hervé, who's in the gallery, wouldn't shoot his brains out. And it became a success. So that's done. So okay, that's done. Let's do something different. So I keep on having to increase the dosage because otherwise I don't feel anything, and also I don't feel proud anymore. Now it does happen, and I'm sorry, as usual, I talk too much, but it does happen that we come out with a creation, and I'm super proud of it, and then 6 months, 3 months, a year later, I look at it and I go, we could make it evolve. We could change it. It would be interesting if we did this and that. So we make it evolve and modify it. And so there are all the time completely new creations. And in parallel, there is an evolutionary process of the existing ones. But every single one of our products, we usually give it a 4 years lifespan. Legacy one was the maximum, I think it was a 5-year lifespan. And even though it was still selling like hotcakes, the 60 movements we do a year, we stopped it. Because you need to have the courage to stop something so that you create something else.
Is there an expression in watchmaking that you can't stand? Like, in my case, over 20 years in the watch industry, I've heard so many brands talking about timeless, being timeless and being different. These are 2 words that I find really abused, because every a lot of brands, you hear the same concept applied to things that are completely the opposite to each other, and you ask the question, how can that work possibly? So that's in my case. In your case, is there one thing that really you think it doesn't do a favor to the Swiss watchmaking industry in keep on using, in a way? A common mistake, a repeated mistake.
Big size. Can you hear sound here? Our industry is concentrating more and more on their icons. Those icons were created by people who took enormous creative risks. So apart from very few, I find, good examples in the last 10 years. I mean, you can take a Richard Mille, or Richard created something which today is an icon. I mean, when he created his RM01, everybody looked at it and was like, what the hell is that? And it became an icon. I find that with the means our industry has today, it should not only continue milking the cow as it knows how to do so well, but it could reinvest a bit of their money and take a bit of creative risks to create the icons of what will be the watchmaking of 2030, 40, 50. And I would love my industry to be creating the icons of the next 30 or 40 years, and not only milking the cows of the great crazy creators of 30, 40, 50, or 100 years ago.
Absolutely. Very clear. Very clear. So the 10th question you have already answered. So I'll have to replace it with another one. Because the 10th question was for those who are watching, and I'm happy to tell you, I don't know if you can see the comments that we've been having, and
yeah, that's why when you see my eyes darting there, I'm looking at the comments coming in on the screen. Thank you guys for sending comments and questions.
Yeah, and then when we broadcast the interview, then we get lots of views from collectors and aficionados. So one was, what is the tip that Max Büsser would give to those that are ready to take risks but are hesitating, to always look forward and always innovate? I don't know if you wish to add something on this. I think
I answered that in question 2 or 3. I can't remember. It's follow your inner path, creative path. Try never to have a shareholder, a financial shareholder. and more importantly, surround yourself with people who've got the strengths and qualities that you don't have, and we all, with all humility, will never have everything which is needed. Those are the three basic points which, for me, makes you viable in such a tough industry.
Absolutely. And lastly, if you had the opportunity to spend a few hours on a dinner with a personality, let's say from the past, so not available, so you can't pick up the phone and do it now, who would you choose and why?
Günther Blümlein. Because I was extremely lucky as a youngster to work for him, and that he is probably the single person who's the most impressed me in my professional life.
Correct?
He was the head of Jaeger-LeCoultre and IWC. He single-handedly recreated Lange. He was passionate, so smart, so incredibly smart. In an era where we were all, we'll say in an affectionate way in French, you say bricoleur. He was a man who, and it's interesting because he's an engineer. He was an engineer by training, like I am, and like Henri-John Belmont is. When we were all at Jaeger-LeCoultre, we were all product people. We believed that great products made great brands. And we were not marketing people. We were not good at great slogans and great advertising things. We just believed that creating great products was what was our mission in life. And Günther Blümlein was incredible, and he passed away way too early.
Perfect, Max. I have to thank you very much for the time. I appreciate that we've been a bit longer than what we expected. Thanks for your amazing contribution to our efforts to create interesting contents on independent watchmaking. Because we dream in the future to be closely related to MB&F and to you. And for the time being, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Keep up the great work, and looking forward to see more on your channel. Brilliant. Bye, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Enjoy your weekend.
Yes.
Must be nice
in
Dubai, I suppose.
Yeah. Ciao.
All the best. Bye-bye.